Welcome back to Hannity. And as we have seen now in recent weeks, the outsider candidates continue to surge in the polls, leaving many of the career politicians scratching their head. But what's behind this movement? Now, many believe it's their refusal to be politically correct. Take a look.
Maybe they don't want a straight talker. Maybe they don't. No, maybe they don't. But I am so tired of this politically correct crap.
I would not advocate that we put a Muslim in charge of this nation. I absolutely would not agree with that.
I think American blacks, over the course of this next year, will begin to see that they've been manipulated very, very largely, and people telling them what they're supposed to think and what they're supposed to say.
Not only are taxpayers having to fund this butchery, but Planned Parenthood doles out millions of dollars every single election cycle to Democrat candidates. This is a political slush fund.
And back with us for more is author of the brand new book. It's called A More Perfect Union, 2016, Republican presidential candidate Dr. Ben Carson. By the way, I've already interviewed you about the comments you made. I don't want to go down and ask you the same questions every time you're on the program.
But I know the answers now.
You have what?
I know the answers now.
You gave me the answer already. So, I mean, otherwise we're just rehashing the last interview. Is it about political correctness? People want, is it that the country is, I look at the numbers. Yeah. 95 million Americans out of the labor force, 50 million in poverty, 46 million on food stamps, doubling of the debt, $5,000 median income decrease since Obama's been president. Americans are suffering.
They are, without question. And who's paying attention to them? Now, the progressives would have you believe that they're the ones who are looking out for them. But it's their progressive policies that have put the middle class and the poor in this condition, because the poor and the middle class no longer have a mechanism for increasing their money.
You said, when you said that people would be manipulated, you're talking about some demographics in the Democratic Party. You mean the people that are told that Republicans want to put you all back in chains, they don't even want to count you in the census, they want dirty air and water, and they want to throw your grandmother over the cliff, which we hear every election cycle. Is that the manipulation?
And instead saying, but we will take care of you. We will give you housing subsidies, and we will give you food stamps. You know, we have 10 times more people on food stamps than we did when the war on poverty was started.
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
Sad.
And all of these kinds of things that actually aren't elevating people.
Then let me ask you, how would Ben Carson as president get those people back in the labor force, get them off of food stamps, get them out of poverty, get family median income up? How do you do it?
Well, first of all, big jump start. There's over $2 trillion overseas in American money that's not being brought back because we have the highest corporate tax rates in the developed world. 6-month hiatus, allow that money to be repatriated without taxation. The only stipulation...
No tax, like Donald Trump wants 10%, which would be...
Right. The only stipulation would be that 10% of it would have to be used for empowerment zones, enterprise zones in some of our cities, or to create jobs for people who are unemployed and on welfare. And that gets business and industry back in the idea of what they used to do.
Would you lower the corporate tax rate as part of that?
Oh, yeah. You would lower that to below the average. So we begin to suck business back in.
We become the tax haven.
Absolutely. Yeah. We become a place where people are advantaged by working here.
Do you think we're better off lowering taxes overall? I mean, I will tell you that I pay on average 60 cents of every dollar I make.
Which is absolutely absurd.
It's highway robbery. And then when I die, they're going to take the gold out of my teeth and half of what I saved.
Right. Well, you know, first of all, we do not need that. Nancy Pelosi said if you cut the budget by 1 penny, it will be a disaster. Not true at all. We have 4.1 million federal employees. We have 645 federal agencies and sub-agencies. We have unfunded liabilities. That's incredible. Our fiscal gap is $200 trillion plus. And unless we begin to deal with that, we have completely destroyed the future of those coming behind us, and we can deal with it quite easily.
How do you take your experience of being one of the most gifted, by all accounts, and I even have a friend of mine that once you interviewed him, and he's a brain surgeon and a neurosurgeon. Yeah. And how do you take that experience and transfer that to the most difficult job in the world?
Well, for one thing, you recognize that there is no one person who knows everything. Solomon himself, the wisest man who ever lived, said in Proverbs 11:14.
I thought he built the temple himself, right? Yeah.
And the multitude of counselors is safety. So I do recognize that. But I also have a history of solving complex problems. And these are complex problems. I've thought about them. I've talked to a lot of people who also know a lot about it. And I have no doubt that if we utilize the incredible intellect that we have available to us in this country, and we begin to focus on how we do things rather than why we can't do them, we'll get them done. This is America.
Let me ask you one more foreign policy question. We talked about Vladimir Putin, a little bit about the Middle East. How do we deal with radical Islamic terrorism? ISIS, for example.
Well, first of all, we need to recognize that they are an existential threat to us. They're not some little JV group over in the Middle East. And we have to be able to identify them, talk about them, recognize that they want to destroy us in our way of life. We need to use every mechanism available to us, covert and overt.
Defeat them over there before they come here?
Absolutely, you have to.
Take the war to them.
Absolutely, and that's not a Democrat or Republican issue, because I guarantee you, if we don't take care of them over there, when they get here, they're not going to ask you if you're a Republican or Democrat before they cut your head off. No. We need to destroy them now with everything, and we have the ability to do it.
All right, Dr. Carson, by the way, his brand new book, I've got it right here, and it's called The More Perfect Union, and you can find it in bookstores, Amazon.com. Good to see you, Dr. Carson. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sean.